Hi everyone, welcome back to Easy Recaps. Today I will show you an action and adventure film from 2022 titled Uncharted. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Uncharted is a straightforward, safe, but an overall satisfying intro to treasure hunter Nathan Drake. This film lives up to expectations for a film based on a PlayStation video game. Nathan Drake's dream of becoming a treasure hunter began at a young age. Nathan has always been fascinated by historical events. He and his brother, Sam, were occasionally in hot water for trying to break into places and pilfering historic artifacts. In fact, Nathan and Sam have their sights set on a museum housing the world's first drawn map. Why? Because it's a map by Ferdinand Magellan, the man who sailed around the world for the first time in the 16th century. Sam and Nathan are arrested and returned to the orphanage where they are living after an unsuccessful attempt to obtain the map. The officer informs Sam that this is his third strike and that he will be arrested. Sam, refusing to go to jail, managed to escape quietly through his bedroom window, but not before promising Nathan that he will return someday. "15 years later, Nate now works as a bartender in New York City and pickpockets wealthy customers. Nate is now a waiter, but he also pickpockets rich people visiting the bar and fantasizing about discovering Magellan's loot, which his older brother had told him about before he mysteriously disappeared. Sully Sullivan, who may or may not be fully committed to a second fiddle role, approaches the light-fingered Nate in his bar with a proposition: they could team up to track for the gold and possibly find Nate's brother as well. However, they keep coming across some difficult customers: gold hunter Chloe and a cold martial arts fighter Braddock, who works for the smooth-voiced gangster Moncada. Nathan and Sully are about to undertake an adventure that is truly uncharted. He now offers to work with him, but Nate declines. Victor claims, "If you accompany me, you will be able to locate your brother." Nate goes to his house and begins to look through his brother's belongings. Later, he agrees to collaborate with Victor. The next morning, we see Nate making a cross gesture to Victor. He explains that this isn't a cross, it is rather the key to the treasure. Victor claims to have one of the keys, and that they have to steal the other one as soon as possible. Victor alleged that the other key is in the possession of an auction house. And that key will be shown shortly. We're going to have to steal that key soon. After going to visit that company, Victor grabs the key. He was on his way back from the place he had nicked the key. A girl named Brett shows up after pointing the knife at Victor's throat. She is obeying her boss's orders by giving me this key. She was following her boss's instructions. Victor's former adversary. We haven't seen many references to the film's video game origins, but it does a good job of bringing the world of Uncharted to life. It continues to play it safe, with Nate, Sully, and Chloe attempting to engage in humorous and occasionally tech-heavy banter that isn't seen in the games. For example, Nate makes fun of Sully for having Tinder on his phone. As they collect clues, solve puzzles, and travel the world, the trio gets into their fair share of fights, chase scenes, and booby traps. The card bears Victor's address. In the following scenario, Nate enters his home. After returning, he sees the map that both he and his brother tried to steal. And in the meantime, Victor turns up and says, "If you had been there, you would have told me." Nate tells Victor that this map has been sought after by many others. It's a map of a hidden treasure. Several people have devoted their time in this sort of way without success. "This is a meaningless tale," Nate says. Victor guarantees Nate, saying, "This isn't a senseless story. I'm sure you and your brother are both well-versed in this map." Nate is later given a book and an image of a ship by Victor. "This isn't just any old ship, it's a $500 million antiques," Victor explains. It's not just that, but the ship has treasure tucked away on board. A group of 18 people kept this. Victor couldn't bear the thought of letting Nate go because he, Nate, knows so much about the treasure. This is a globe-trotting film that takes the audience to many locations from Barcelona to the Philippines. Still, it never really feels like it's within the same level as the games, possibly because it's missing several of the jungle or desert segments that notably made the video game adaptation so cinematic. In the next scene, we see Nate arriving at the map's location that occurred in a cave on an island. Brett, on the other hand, has been watching Nate. Nate, however, dives into the water to reach the cave. He sees two massive ships, and many people who had died trying to find that boat. Nate discovers a large amount of gold when he gets into the ship. And all the while, he can hear Victor approaching. As he watches this, Nate is absolutely petrified and wonders how he got here. He claims, "You introduced me to your doctors." When Brett and her people arrive, they're both watching the treasure. But Nate and Victor flee when they notice them. Brett summons her team and gets ready to fly onto the ships. Since she is concerned that the ship, in addition to the treasure, is extremely expensive. Victor and Nate appear and declare their desire to take away the ship. They access the ship from the front, and you immediately begin fighting the guard. Nate was also thrashing the security guards. The security officers are dumped in the water. After having killed the guards one by one, they then take over the ship. Victor was quickly beckoning a helicopter to escape Brett's clutches. However, Brett continued to pursue him. Just then we see Nate's ship being struck by Brett's men. In the meantime, Brett was preparing to attack Nate's ship just as they all started fighting with Nate. In the process, Nate's attacked Brett's chopper, and it was destroyed. Sully hijacks one of the helicopters during their escape, while still, Braddock authorizes a boarding action from yet another chopper. Nate fights off her soldiers and local Filipino militias, then uses one of the ship's weapons to take down the other helicopter. As Nate climbs to the chopper, Braddock lowers the ship's anchor. Sully saves Nate by throwing a bag of stolen treasure at Braddock. When the ship crashes on her, Braddock fell into the sea and drowns. Nate and Sully get away with a few pieces of pickpocket treasure as Philippine Navy soldiers arrive, but Chloe finds herself empty-handed and she wants to follow the two. Later, Sam, who is jailed, sends another note to Nate. This action-adventure epic, based on the internationally renowned video game franchise, follows Nate and Sully as they go on a perilous search for the greatest treasure ever unearthed, while simultaneously following down clues that could help find Nate's long-lost sibling.